Hello everyone, it's Martin Lush here from NSF Health Sciences, and it gives me great pleasure to take you through the 6 to fix in 6 relating to changing GMP behaviours and quality culture. Now this is just part 1. This subject is so important, we've had so many questions relating to it, we've actually divided these into 2 videos. So this part 1 is going to take you through the fundamentals of behaviour change, and then part 2 will take you through the mechanics of how you go about it. Now in this fast changing world that we all live in, we all realise that sometimes the behaviours of the past are no longer fit for the future. So it's really key that we understand the process for changing behaviours as fast as we can, because we know training doesn't work alone, we know supervision doesn't work alone, and the process that we're going to give you enables you to do that. One thing we all need to remember though is that you can never force people to change unless they intrinsically really want to. Just remember that. I think we've all been guilty in our careers of going into a processing room, onto a packing line, insisting on a particular change in procedure, a particular behaviour change following a training course, and then we leave the room and then we really do know that all they're doing is what they were doing before, because you cannot force people to do something they don't intrinsically want to do. Now, for this part 1, I just want to give you an overview of the model that we at NSF have developed. This model is based upon a huge amount of research, both in academia as well as in industry, that gives us a process that we can follow that actually works. Now, this starts with understanding of what we call BMath. Now, behaviour at its simplest level comes down to 4 components. People need to be motivated, they need to be given a reason for changing that is personal to them. In other words, there's a benefit to them personally from changing, that's the motivation component. They need the ability, which is not just the education, but they also need the new behaviour to be as simple as possible, considerably simpler than the old behaviour. There then needs to be a trigger event, a reminder or a cue to remind them this is what they now have to do. And then we need to practice the new behaviour and practice precisely, supported by the coaching and the mentoring, because people will make mistakes until that new behaviour becomes robust and it eventually becomes a habit and people do it automatically. So that's the foundations of our BMath model. Now, for part 1, I just want to really talk you through our 6 to fix process. So 6 simple steps. You have to be robust in following each of these, because changing behaviour does not, even with this process, happen overnight. So you need to stick with this. Step 1 is identify the specific behaviour you want to change, whether it be improved gowning, improved housekeeping, changing people's attitudes and behaviours to deviations. So step 1 is about identifying the specific behaviour. Step 2 is really key. This is where you analyse the reasons why people are not doing what you want them to do. Most people don't get out of bed in the morning and say, I'm going to screw up today. They actually get out of bed in the morning intent on doing the best they can with what they've got. So there's a good reason why they're not doing the best they can. And step 2 is about that diagnosis. Step 3 is then about providing the motivation that is personal to them, not the company, it's personal to them. Then we've got to focus on the ability, then we create the trigger event, and then it's all about habituation. So this 6-step process, I'm going to walk you through very quickly. I'm going to focus very much on step 4, for reasons that become clear later. Now on our behaviour change course, we actually spend considerable time on each of these so that participants really understand and become expert in each step, and they can achieve the fantastic results due to following the process. Now what this really means when it comes to behaviour change is that if you're not getting the desired behaviour, it's down to one or all of either lack of intrinsic motivation, the new behaviour is either too difficult, there's no reminder, people simply forget this is what they have to do, or indeed the habit, the new behaviour may be too weak. Quick question for you. Which of these is most powerful in driving behaviour? Is it motivation? Is it ability? Is it the trigger event? Or is it lack of practice to form those habits? Now, if there's any consolation, I actually got this question wrong. The research tells us that what is most important is ability. You've got to make the new behaviour as simple as possible. So a quick question for you to finish off with part one. If you had a bowl of fruit at home, which item of fruit is left until last? Well, if your household is anything like mine, it's usually the oranges. Not that we don't like oranges, it's that they are just harder to eat. It's a natural human trait, a natural human behaviour to go for the line of least resistance. So in order to change behaviour, we need to make that new behaviour easier. So in part two, I'm going to take you through step 4. I'm not going to have time to go through all the other steps, but you get a flavour of those anyway. But in part 2, we're going to focus on making sure they have the ability. So stay tuned for part 2.